So basically there is a kind of three parts of the plan, and the overall thing is what Christin and I have been excited about for the 5 years we've been in this business is what is the future of a community bookstore in the 21st century. Because there used to be a community bookstore for the 20th century. We all know that model. What does the community bookstore look like for the 21st century, when you have instant downloadable ebooks everywhere, and Kindle is going to be free, in 6 months or so, and the market has changed so dramatically. 75% of independent bookstores are gone. Borders is gone. Barnes & Noble is probably going to get crushed because of Wall Street and these big economic forces. They don't like bookstores. So what does a small community bookstore for the 21st century look like? And that's the question we've always been asking ourselves, and we've been working towards it. And we thought that we had about 40% of the answer figured out with all the things that are already working at Booksmith and in Berkeley Arts and Letters, many of which all of you have been part of. I mean, you're the guy who helped us figure this out. Because when we showed up 5 years ago, we didn't know anything about running a bookstore. We just showed up and said, hey, we're thinking of buying a bookstore. What do you guys think? And everybody was, okay, and it's so I think you guys have been the family in the community through which we really learned what it means to promote authors and promote books, and what's the role of a bookstore. So I think 40% of the answer is already figured out. It's working, which is why Booksmith is doing so well, and why Berkeley program is doing so well. And here with Kepler, I think there's an opportunity to really just take the leap forward and go all the way 100%. So let me basically just kind of cut to the chase and tell you what that 100% looks like. So there's three things. Number one, Christin and I come from a strategy background. We used to teach and advise big companies on strategy. And what is it that you do and what is it that you don't do? And we think the thing that bookstores do better than Amazon and Google and Apple is the act of bringing people together. It's creating these shared social, literary, cultural experiences of bringing people together, because frankly those big companies don't do that. I mean, they're not in that business. And we are really good at it, and we're getting better and better at it. So I think that is really the future, of what bookstores for community bookstores for 21st century are going to be all about, and that's something that's needed because we look around the country and the country is getting more and more divided. There's a presidential campaign starting, and we're going to have the reds and the blues, and people for gay rights and against gay rights, but bookstores bring people together. Instead of dividing people, they have this unifying function, and then there's the cultural and the arts and the culture and the literature and everything else. So really just taking that and expanding the events programming, many folds more, and that's an activity we think belongs in a non-profit umbrella, because it's essentially what you're doing is public education. 70% of our events don't make money. We lose money on 70% of our events. And and there are organizations like City Arts and Lectures, Commonwealth Club, even the local Jewish community centers. These are all set up as nonprofit organizations. So there's no reason we cannot embrace the nonprofit model for that part of the business, which is really around doing public education and public programming. So we are embracing the nonprofit model for that part of the business. And so there is a new nonprofit organization. It's already set up. We're fiscally sponsored, right now by the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, and we finally got that set up around December 29th or so, and just in time for the closing of the tax year. So we started to raise money, and the good thing is this is not something that we are telling the community. This is coming from the community on the peninsula. People have been telling Clark for years to set up a nonprofit organization, and they just hadn't figured out how to do that. And and I'll talk about some of the complexities involved with that. So that's going to be number one, a separate nonprofit top tier arts and cultures program, centered on the peninsula market, where we just really expand the events programming multi-fold. I mean, Kepler already has a really kick-ass award-winning events program, and just think about you take out the building block and just build on that and create 500, 700 events a year, where you're just packing the place with all kinds of interesting lectures and conversations and on-stage interviews and everything else. And you're shaking your head. You and I have talked about this at the Burmese restaurant. So that's number one. Number two, and this is also based on something I think we do better than Amazon and Google and Apple, is the act of creating beautiful, well-curated, browsable, selections in a physical space. Physical browsing in a bookstore is 3 times more powerful than online browsing. And just think about that. There's statistics, there's data behind that proves that. Amazon has been on this for 18 years, and still a physical space browsing is 3 times better than Amazon's online browsing is.
And better by what measure?
In terms of your ability to discover, consumers or readers' ability to discover new things, impulse purchases. So if you know exactly what book you want to buy, then of course you can buy it on Amazon, you can buy it on your Kindle, you can buy it on your phone. That's easy. But the trick with the new publishing industry, where we are, is there's 1 million new books that came out last year. And you guys are all living this, because you all have books, you're trying to get published, it's harder to get published, advances are drying up, but at the same time there are more and more books coming out. And the trick is, how do you get discovered? If you're a new emerging writer and you're on your first book or on your second book, how are people ever even find out you have a book? Because there's only a few hundred books that the New York Times is going to review, and there's only a few hundred more that the Chronicle is going to review, and then how are people going to find out about the books? So I think even publishers are starting to realize that there's a lot of value in bookstores as showrooms, where people discover new things, new ideas, new writers, new books. So it's the discovery, element of it, and the impulse purchases, and the browsability, those things. Again, that's something that we started to do at the Booksmith, 3 years ago.
Still a work in progress.
And it's still a work in progress, but we made, I think, major leaps in that. The weekly, the San Francisco Weekly, gave us an award last year, calling us the best reimagined bookstore in San Francisco. And part of that is just creating a beautiful physical space, which has a lot of strong emotional appeal. It has good books, they're well curated, they're well selected, they're well merchandised, they're well promoted. This is the retail magic. And you don't need necessarily a lot of space for that, more and more, but if you do it well, then people respond to that. And we are seeing them respond, at the Booksmith. And so again, we're doing customer surveys at Kepler's, and what we're hearing from people is, they're saying, where are the books? I'm coming to Kepler's, I'm not seeing enough books. I want to see more books. Where are all the books? Because they're seeing empty shelves, they want to see more books, they want to see better backlist selections, and we're hearing them from customers. And Amazon validated the importance of bookstores when it launched that price checking app 2 or 3 months ago, because if physical spaces didn't matter, they would never have said, here's the app, and please go to your local store to scan it. They would have just said, come to Amazon.com. I mean, they're validating the need of physical spaces and the browsability and the discovery for that. So I think that's a game we're still ahead of, and our goal is basically just to stay ahead of it as long as possible. So we'll improve the space, improve the backlist, improve the inventory, improve the curation. And I think you can actually get a lot more sales, at least in the short term.
One of the things that we started doing at the Booksmith is we started a collaborative buying process with the entire staff. So more traditional model of a bookstore is where you have one buyer and they're making all the decisions about the books that are coming into the store. So now in our store, all of the staff have the option to come and look at the catalogs, put what they're excited about. And I was telling Julia, one of the really powerful things is if you get an advanced reader's copy in one of our staff's hands and they're excited about it, then they start talking to everybody else about it. And that's what happened with Julia's book. We were just all reading it and loving it, and really decided to get behind it. And so we can make those choices through that process of engaging with authors and having the staff then enthusiastic about what's in the store and sharing what's in the store.
Are you guys making money? And then, if you're setting up this nonprofit structure with Kepler's, how does the physical Kepler's make enough money to stay alive?
Yeah. So, the retail bookstore part of it is going to remain a for-profit, because the Internal Revenue Service is not ready to call media companies, newspapers, and bookstores non-profits yet, even though none of them make money. But the reality is a political change always lags behind social and kind of like community change from the ground up. So it'll probably 5-10 years before the IRS gets it. But so the bookstore itself is going to remain a for-profit bookstore. We've been running a profitable, operational cash flow positive bookstore for like 3+ years now, through the biggest recession in the last 50 years. So we think this is doable. We're not making enough money, our staff is not making enough money, and those are problems to be solved. And that is really the biggest long-term challenge in the business is really how do you improve the economics so you can pay people a good wage and good compensation. We hire these really smart kids, from Brown, and they have MFAs and literature degrees and journalism degrees, and they start at barely above minimum wage, and it just breaks my heart. I'm like, wow, how do we pay people more money so it's worth being in this business? And I think what happens with a nonprofit is that suddenly you can start bringing other revenue, which is, it's not just book sales. Now you can start bringing tax deductible contributions, you can do corporate sponsorships, you can do grants, you can do all other kind of things. Is it going to work? I don't know. It's working for Commonwealth Club, it's working with City Arts and Lectures, and they could figure it out, we're going to give it our best shot to figure it out too. And so far, people are responding, and all the people I'm talking to on the peninsula, they're like, yeah, this makes sense. We need a good program in our neighborhood. We don't want to get in the car and go up to San Francisco to listen to an author that's near and dear to our heart. We want a strong arts and culture program here, and we're willing to pay for that. So far, in the initial times are very good. We're going to launch a capital campaign. We're going to raise money. Ask me in 6 months, how that's going. I'll know better.
Number three.
So number three. Thank you, Todd. So number three is, I think, bookstores, including us at the Booksmith, have been ignoring a lot of big changes that are happening in the publishing industry. And we're not really taking advantage of them. We're not embracing them. We're resisting them. We're fighting them. We're kind of stuck in the sand, with our heads down, because our business models are, kind of tied up in the past. Self-publishing. Self-publishing is huge. It's like one of the biggest trends in the business. And we just don't know how to play with self-publishing today. We're not playing well with that. Technology, everything that's happening with technology and with ebooks, we're not playing well with that. Amazon. Amazon is a force. It's not going to go back. There's no turning the clock back on Amazon. It's here. I think it's just time to embrace these things. And this one is controversial. And even my own team hasn't fully bought into this. And people raise their eyebrows, when I say this. I think, I would love to be the first bookstore in the country to sell Kindles. Because really, we're trying to get to a place where we encourage people to have their Kindles, that they got from Kepler's, because they sign up for a $500 a year membership, and as part of the membership we give them a free Kindle, which only costs $79, so it was worth it. And now they take the Kindle, they come into the store, and they come and they discover Caroline's and Wendy's new book, and they're like, wow, that's a great book, I want to read it, but I'm going to download it on my Kindle from Amazon, and that's okay. I think we want to get to that point, because once we get to the point and we can make the economics work, then that's the community bookstore of the 21st century.
Can't you be the middle person for ebooks too?
Wouldn't
that be awesome if they browsed and then they bought?
That's a great question.
And the interesting thing about Kepler's is it's in the middle of ground zero for the development in this space, right? And so, can you tell the story about the Google guy?
Yeah. So I will. Being in the let me answer Caroline's question about being in the middle and reselling ebooks and making money on ebooks. I have no illusion about it. We are never going to turn a profit selling ebooks. Okay, here's why. The number 2 player in the country selling ebooks is Barnes & Noble. If you look at their last 10K statement, they did $860 million of ebook sales, including the physical books that sell through their website, and they're losing money on that business. Amazon is the number 1 player in ebooks, and they're probably losing money on the ebook business too, because they're very aggressive with their price, and it's a loss leader for them. They don't disclose, so you don't know how much money they're making or losing on the business. So the top 2 players in the country in ebooks are not making money. And these are companies with billions in resources, thousands of people working for them. They can keep losing money for decades, because there are other more profitable businesses where they make money. Us little tiny bookstores and little communities, we are never going to make money selling ebooks, unless something radically changes in the back that that we don't have, these are forces that we have no control over. So yes, we're going to sell ebooks. Kepler sells a lot of ebooks today, and we're going to keep doing that, but it's not going to be profitable. We're not going to make money on it. There are a lot of things we do in the business which are not profitable. The school fairs are not profitable. The community fundraisers are not profitable. So we'll keep doing it because it makes sense, as part of providing the whole experience. But we're not going to make money on it. Not in the near term. I don't see it. So I think, so that's number 3. And then I go to this thing that Christin wanted me to talk about. So number 3 is really, let's embrace, these big trends, these big changes that are happening in the industry. Let's stop fighting them. Let's figure out how to ride them to make our, businesses better and more viable. Because once we do that, we can actually start doing a whole bunch of new things, for writers. And that's, partly, what I want to talk about today, which is, some of the things that we've been experimenting with and are working. We partner with a lot of you. And, and how do we make this more interesting and meaningful and relevant for, the writer community, because you guys are such, important partners in, this, coming together. So those are 3 things. 1, focus on events, set up a nonprofit. 2nd, keep making the physical and the browsing and the curation better and better and better. And 3rd, start embracing all these things, self-publishing and technology and ebooks, and basically stop fighting them. That's it. In a nutshell. And we think Silicon Valley is the perfect place to do this. It's an absolutely perfect place to do it because it's an early adopter community, very tech savvy. Everybody down there practically already has an iPad or a Kindle. They're reading on their phones. And we're like, wow, let's just buy the bullet and try to do it in Silicon Valley, because if it works there, then it'll work in every other community in the country, and basically in the next few years, because everybody else is going to get up the adoption curve there too. And that's what I'm talking about the rest of the country and the other communities. I think it's worth explaining. Christin and I have absolutely no interest in building a chain. 0. I think this is the second and the last bookstore I'm going to do, and I'm done. This is hard. This is a hard business. There's no money in this business. It is just backbreaking. And we have no interest in building a chain. So this store is going to be called Kepler. Not changing the name. There's not a second branch of the Booksmith or anything like that. It's just going to be basically a community bookstore, for the peninsula. And but I think there's some relevance and applicability to what we're doing on the peninsula for other bookstores and for other communities, because